All right, finally on frame number 5, there's a lot of eggs over here. So it really just looks like the queen's working from the right side of the box to the left. Man, I was hoping to find eggs on the first frame, as you can imagine, considering how aggressive this colony is. But this is almost what to expect this time of year, since food sources have kind of dried up and we are currently in a dearth. And it sucks, because as much as I like or I really miss those pleasant springtime inspections, you still have to inspect your hives throughout the year, and mid-July through August, this is practically what to expect. All right, welcome back everybody. So here it is, Thursday, July 17th, right at 10:30 in the morning, 86 degrees, 71% humidity, with a heat index of 97 degrees, and it feels like it's standing right here. So I'm out here to do a few specific things. One, I need to finish going through the rest of the hives for a routine inspection, because it's been a while for quite a few of them. I'm going to start with number 7, and I have 7 to get through. And those 7 are the ones that I was not able to get to this past Sunday, because unfortunately I got rained out in the early afternoon. So multi-purposes. 1, inspection, all the usual things. 2, it gives me a chance to look at the honey supers, because surprisingly from Sunday I discovered at least a few full supers that I can harvest. So if the second half of the yard, or the last third, or however you want to look at it, if they have a few more, that could be another maybe 5 or 6 full supers, which would be super cool. And then once I get through the inspection part, I'm going to circle back around to hives number 2 and 4. They have become queenless. Well, they became queenless a while ago. I've done a few things since then to try to get them queen right, and it's just not going well. So I made the decision on Sunday that I wanted to combine them. I intended to combine them on Sunday, but again, because of the weather, I wasn't able to do so. So number 16 is the most recent swarm number 11. They're in a single deep, and they really don't have the best comb, the best foundation. So I'm going to use, the plan right now is to use a box or 2 from 2 and 4 to get 16 into a double deep, move a bunch of frames around to give them the best possible configuration I can make, and then whatever boxes are left over with however the rest of the hives look today, maybe use some to basically just increase or improve another hive's available comb for the queens to lay in. Okay, so that is it. Yeah, that's the plan. Finish the inspection from this past weekend, combine number 2 and 4 with another colony, just to eliminate the possibility of a laying worker situation starting, which I feel like I'm on the verge of that, and take a look at the honey supers and the remaining hives to form a plan, not for this weekend, but for next weekend, which I believe is already early August. So a chance to pull a few more supers for early August. And because I know I put all these supers back after I harvested the first time around May 31st or June 1st, I know all these supers are an actual summer honey, which is how I'll advertise that to the local community. So for the first time in 8 years, 9 seasons, however you want to look at it, we finally have a spring honey and a summer honey to offer our very kind and loyal customers. Okay, let me get suited up. I'll get the smoker lit. We'll get to it. There's no rain in the forecast today, but what I have noticed is there will be no rain in the forecast and we'll still get rain. That's just how things go here in eastern North Carolina this time of year. All right, enough yapping. Let's get started. All right, like usual, kind of a tradition. Before we get started, let's walk around, take a look at the entrances. just to see how they're looking. And kind of dual purpose, it also gives me an opportunity to try and identify any unusual behavior. They're currently in the requeening process. If you didn't catch the early July video, surprisingly, I found 2, maybe 3 queen cells. So I'm just gonna let them do their thing. Nothing looks unusual so far, but yeah, starting around here, actually I think here, the last 7 is what I need to get through. I am very curious to see how this one's looking, because they have been bearding heavily for quite a while, which is not unusual for this time of year, but that also shows me they have a fairly large population of bees. And since I'll probably be feeding here soon, I'm curious to see if they're a good candidate to make a split off of. All right, let's get started, just so I'm not out here too terribly long, because even though the weather says it's a 97-degree heat index, as you can see here, there's a lot of nice natural shade that this yard location offers. Doesn't change the humidity, but I am definitely acclimatized to the North Carolina humidity at this point. And it doesn't really bother me. I don't mind being out here for hours with no food, no water. I get a good sweat. It might sound odd, but it's enjoyable. But anyway, if I can try to beat the heat, that's the general idea. So let me get the smoker going. We'll get started in the last 7. Hopefully there's no curveballs with them, but you never know until you get into them. All right, looking back in hive tracks for my notes, the last time I was in this one, to include most of the rest of them, was about June 6th. So about a week after I put the supers back on, and then decided, once I saw the bees working the supers pretty aggressively, just to leave them alone. I think this has happened a few times. It's where the inner cover gets stuck on the outer cover. I have to pry that apart. But just a quick first look. I'm assuming they probably have some food stores, but it doesn't look like anything really harvestable, at least in the top box, because they do have the bottom box, and I'll show you that once I get to them. All right, I just went for the very center frame, or frame number 6, which you can see they're actually doing a pretty nice job capping some of the nectar they've brought in. And found another shallow frame, but yeah, they're not doing a bad job. And in fact, the bottom box, since I can see down in it briefly, or the second medium, looks a little better, which is what I was expecting. So if I end up harvesting the second box, I'll just simply put this medium in its place, which would be directly on top of the brood chamber. But I can't get the inner cover unstuck. They've done a pretty good job sealing that up. All right, let's pull, same thing, let's just pull maybe the center frame and just see how it's looking. Okay, well, kind of deceiving, because all I saw was the capped honey from on top, but I mean, they have food stores, which is really what you want. It just doesn't look like anything I'll be able to harvest, which isn't a big deal. So I'm gonna get into the bottom box. I'll show you anything interesting as far as the inspection goes. All right, this is just the second frame. I remember some of these hives being aggressive, and sure enough, this is one of them. No eggs on that one, so I'm gonna have to pull the next frame, which I really didn't want to, but here we are. So we'll see how this one looks. All right, we got some brood. Again, just looking for eggs. Not seeing any, which is kind of odd. All right, I guess we're pulling another frame. It's kind of a spotty brood pattern. But man, they are not enjoying this. Eureka! We have eggs. I may have seen eggs on the previous frames, but as you can see, that comb's pretty dark. And even with a flashlight, sometimes it's hard to tell. And yeah, you can see this is a heck of a start to this week's inspections, but it's just how it goes sometimes. Holy smokes. I remember one of the hives on that side of the yard being aggressive, and I'm pretty confident it's that one. Yeah, it looks like they have a queen. Brood pattern is okay, but when I come across a hive like that, I am not trying to spend any more time in them than I need to. So the top, well, the two mediums, they have enough food to hold them over for probably another month or so. I'll feed them eventually, but nothing worth harvesting, and honestly, nothing really worth doing in addition to what I just did. So I'm just going to give them a break. I'm going to give them maybe like 10 minutes to settle down before I get into the next hive, because what I've noticed is if I go immediately into the next hive, all those bees that are still aggressive from the one I was just in, they'll still be flying around, and it really just makes for a very unpleasant inspection time. All right, down here at 25, and the thing I need to remember with them is they do not have a queen excluder, and they're configured as a double deep, which I don't typically do, but I'm trying to remember why I did this. And probably the reason I did it was either possibly combining another deep box with this one in an effort to maybe save the one deep or the comb, or provide number 25 with better resources. But this is another one that seems to be slightly aggressive, so as soon as I find eggs, that's really all I'm focused on today. I'm really just trying to determine if they're queen right, and like I said in the introduction, if I come across any hives that have a super that's able to be harvested, I'm just going to make a note of that for next weekend. All right, so we got brood. We got some capped brood on frame number 3, and yes, we have eggs throughout. That's actually a nice looking frame. So that is it for number 25. Hopefully that's how the rest of the inspections go today, because as you can see, probably because of the weather, but as you can see, they are a little worked up. All right, moving right along, the next colony is 18, and they have a super with a queen excluder. And again, because I haven't been in these boxes in a while. They're sealed up. So let's see if they've made any use of their super. And I'm just gonna pull. It's configured. It looks like it's configured as a 9 frame. I'm just gonna pull. Let's see, 4. Frame number 4, because it looks like it has the most capped food from the top. And yeah, I mean, not terrible. Both sides, and in fact the one next to it, I'll pull that real quick just because that looks pretty nice. And then we'll just get into the bottom box. Yeah, they're working, or they were working, whatever nectar sources. But the rest of the frames look pretty new, and there's not a lot going on, so I'll save you some time. There's really nothing to look at. All right, let me get into the bottom box. I'll show you anything interesting. Hopefully I just find eggs early on, and then I can move on to the next one. Frame number 2. Ton of larvae. No eggs on that side. It looks like the bees probably just cleaned out those cells in preparation for the queen. And you would think you'd see some eggs here. But I don't. I'm gonna pull one more frame. Some nice brood and some nice larva that hasn't been capped yet. Okay, it's interesting not to. Like I'm gonna have to pull another one. All right, finally on frame number 5, there's a lot of eggs over here, so it really just looks like the queen's working from the right side of the box to the left. Man, I was hoping to find eggs on the first frame, as you can imagine, considering how aggressive this colony is. But this is almost what to expect this time of year, since food sources have kind of dried up and we are currently in a dearth. And it sucks, because as much as I like, or miss, I really miss those pleasant springtime inspections, you still have to inspect your hives throughout the year, and mid-July through August, this is practically what to expect. All right, let's pop the top on number 9. They're configured as a single deep brood chamber with 2 mediums. And again, not to repeat myself too much, but I'm really just curious to see how much or how little the bees worked the nectar flow in June to either finish storing nectar and capping it, or replenish or backfill the supers I harvested. And I don't remember if I took both from this one or one, or whatever the case is, but let's just pull a few and see how it's looking. Check that out. This is the top box too, right? I say check that out because the next frame looks pretty nice. Oh man. And the next frame. Yep. And the next frame. Man, that's awesome. And this is the top box, so unless something's drastically different. The bottom box should be pretty nice too. I'll show you all that here in a second. All right, just took the top box off. Let's just jump straight to the middle frame, since bees tend to work from the middle and then move their way out. Nice nectar stores, surprisingly, just not really capped. However, let's see how these other frames look. Kind of the same, surprisingly. This one, actually, frame, it's odd, frame number 2. Frame number 2 looks a little better, so yeah, I mean, bees are going to do what they want to do, right? Meaning, textbooks say one thing, but reality can obviously be a lot different. They might have a frame or two, but for the most part, this is a good food box, food store to leave them for the rest of the year and into winter, just to get them healthy. All right, let's get into the bottom box, quick inspection, see how they're looking, and then move on to the next one. All right, this is the outside of frame number 2. A lot of nice larvae, and if we keep going, yeah, we have eggs right there, so that is as far as I'm gonna go. All right, moving along down here, 22. So similar to one of the previous ones, they are in a double deep without a queen excluder, probably for the same reason. I probably used a deep box from another colony that just wasn't doing too well to combine with this one. And they have a decent amount of bees in the top box here, concentrated on maybe frame 2, 3, and 4. So I'm just gonna pull a few. All the same thing today. Just look for eggs. This is a newer frame and new foundation, and they've done a nice job drawing that out and building some wax. First frame, not too much going on, which is kind of to be expected. All right, so we have capped brood. Hopefully you can see that. Capped brood and eggs right next to it. So I'm just gonna let them continue to do their thing. So frame number 2, capped brood, larva, and eggs. Now that's my kind of inspection. Yeah, starting with number 7. Not the best start today, but what can you do? All right, down here at 10, so single deep brood chamber with a medium. They still have a queen excluder. In fact, most still have queen excluders because, well, I wanted to see how the bees worked the supers that I harvested at the end of May / June 1st. Got them all back on the hives that weekend. So basically, any hive that had a super harvested, that super's been back on the hive for, I guess, about 6 weeks now. And I am very surprised at how much food they brought in during the month of June and now the first 2 weeks of July. That's like the frame, what, 4? Yeah, frame 4. The next few look okay. I'll probably leave this as a food store. They're probably not going to cap it in time to really harvest it, but it is nice food for them, so not a total loss. All right, let's jump into the bottom box, which is what I am hoping is a quick inspection, just like the previous hive. Because after this one, I have one more to go, and then I can really get to what I want to do, which is figuring out how I want to combine hives 2 and 4 with another, well, with 2 colonies. I just need to figure out which 2 and how I want to do that. This is kind of cool. This is the outside frame of frame number 2, and I'm looking for eggs like usual, but this hive, I'm sorry, this frame, I mean, no kidding, practically every cell is larva, which is really neat, because that means the queen came through and just packed that side of the frame with eggs maybe 5 days ago. So let's pull the next one. I was hoping to find eggs on that frame, but they were there a few days ago. And yeah, sure enough, we have eggs right there. So that's it. That is all she wrote. And that is all I can really hope for. It really saves you a lot of time. I mean, if you can find eggs on the first frame or 2, you can really save yourself a lot of time and heartache going through an entire box, especially this time of year, and especially if you have colonies that are slightly aggressive like the first few y'all saw today. All right, let's see how number 8's looking. Ooh, looks pretty promising as soon as I pop the top. Maybe not from this side, but there's at least 3 or 4 frames. I'm curious to see just how well they've worked them and capped them. Just start with number 2 because it looks pretty nice, at least from the top. Yep. All right, that's not a bad start at all. Number 3 looks pretty good. Oh yeah, that's a full frame to harvest right there. So they have at least 1, 2, 3. I'm not showing you this side, but if I'm counting it, it's good. And between the other half, 4 total. I'd have to test that with the refractometer, just like I did for some other hives that just didn't cap the cells, but the honey was actually less than 18%, which is what you want. All right, so I'm gonna say they have at least 4. They have 4 frames. So that's something to pay attention to and remember for the end of the month. All right, fingers crossed for a quick inspection. That'd be an excellent frame to find eggs on, but that is not the case. So let's look at frame number 2. Looks like a lot of food stores. Same on that side. All right, here we go. Frame number 3. Feel good about this one. It's a lot of brood on both sides, really. You get the flashlight. Hard to see at that angle. All right, surprisingly, there's plenty of spots on that frame you would think you would find eggs, but I didn't see any. So just because it's that time of year, you really want to be thorough. I'm just going to take a look at the next frame. I am so focused on looking for eggs, I've actually stopped remembering to slow down and look for the queen. Yeah, they have eggs. I don't really doubt that, but it is nice to actually get eyes on. Okay. Overall, pretty good inspection today. All queen right. So I'll do a summary here in a second once I get this one back together. All right, there you have it, folks. So it's about 11:45. This took me, I don't know, maybe just over an hour or so. Not bad. Did not enjoy the very aggressive hive, which was 7, and I think the one next to it. But on the flip side, also discovered I have a few colonies down here that have, if not a box, several frames to harvest. So I'm just gonna let those go until the end of the month, which really isn't too terribly far away. Another 2 weeks, give or take. Let the bees just continue to work those stores, hopefully really cure them below 18%. I mean, they might be there already. I haven't checked, but the reason I say hopefully is just because they're uncapped. But I was watching a video from Mike Berry, very interesting gentleman down in Louisiana, and he shared something that I don't know if I shared it in the previous video, so I'm going to share it now or reshare it. But he had mentioned something in a recent video that I thought was really interesting. And what he said was, bees will only cap a cell once that cell is completely full. Mind-blowing, right? But in all honesty, I never thought about that before. So the point is, if bees are bringing in nectar, they're in the process of filling a cell, and then the nectar stops, we hit a dearth to where they don't have the resources to keep bringing in to fill that cell. The cell won't get completely filled, therefore the bees won't cap it. But that cell that contains the nectar might be cured enough, less than 18%, to be considered honey, therefore able to be harvested. Which is why I started testing my honey. Well, let me back up. That's why I start testing cells, open cells, uncapped cells, to see if the moisture content was less than 18. And if it is, that is perfectly fine to include in your harvest. And the reason I share all that is, as y'all saw, there are several frames throughout the last 7 colonies that I just inspected today that have nectar, which might be cured less than 18%, so you can call it honey and harvest it. But they might have more than it looks like, because I don't want to say the majority, but there's a good amount that just wasn't cured yet. All right, that does it for me for now. Stay tuned. I think I'm just going to take a quick break, get some food, get some water, and then come back out here and figure out, well, I'm going to figure out what I'm going to do with number 2 and 4 in the meantime, and then come back out, which will be the next clip of combining number 2 and 4 with at least 16, since 16 is the only hive in a single deep, so that'll be easy. And then possibly, I'm not 100% sure about this idea just yet, but possibly add a box to this one here, which I believe is number 12. No, that's 12. Number 24, I think, to give them just a bigger boost in bees, since they're in the process of requeening as well. So stay tuned. Like I said, it's about noon. I might come out here like around 1 o'clock, do a few things with those 2 hives, and then at least I know for just after mid-July, all the colonies are good. All the colonies are queen right, well, minus number 24 that's in the process. All but one. I will take that any day of the week. All right, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the rest of this afternoon, and then we'll see how the rest of July looks. But I don't know if this is going to come up or not. The bees are trying to sting the lens. I haven't experienced aggressive colonies like this in quite a while. Last year, nothing comes to mind, but then again, last year I started feeding in June, So considering it's mid-July and for sure no nectar is coming in, even though they have decent food stores, just because they're out foraging and trying to look for food and they're not finding anything, that might explain why some are slightly aggressive. All right, that's it for now. Again, it's break time, but stay tuned to see how this afternoon goes. All right, here we go for round 2. So it's about 1:45. Took like maybe a 45-minute break. So I'm heading out to the yard to focus on hives 2 and 4 with the intent of combining them with some other colonies, right? But I was thinking, before I just blindly combine them, since I'm gonna get into them anyway, why not take just a few minutes, re-inspect them from Sunday. Maybe, just maybe, it's a shot in the dark, but maybe there was a virgin queen running around that went out, made it, and returned in the meantime. Again, it's a very low probability, but it's still a possibility. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna get into 2 and 4 to conduct hopefully what's a quick re-inspection. And if they are still queenless, which is the most likely outcome, I am going to combine them with some other colonies. So number 2 is configured with a deep and 2 mediums. 4 is a deep and 1 medium. So like I said a few times, 16 is a single deep, so that's easy. I'll move one of the deeps over there. And in fact, I might take the other deep, and I may have said this in the intro or maybe the previous video for the end of June. I may take the other deep and try to give 16 the best frames possible, because they have some pretty crappy ones. And then with the 3 mediums, I might add 1 to number 24. That's the only colony that is in the process of requeening, and that is also the only colony that has a shallow. So I'll put a medium on them, and then maybe put a medium on, let's see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 9 hives that have a single medium, so plenty of options. All right, enough yapping. Let's get into number 2, quick re-inspection, and then get into number 4, again, re-inspect, and then figure out if they're queen right, which would thoroughly shock me, or most likely combine them. And I'll be giving it some thought where I want to put the boxes and frames as I'm going through them. All right, just finished going through 2 and 4. No change, they're both still queenless. Number 4 has quite a few nice frames in the deep box. So next step is I'm going to get into 16, isolate the queen. This is a queen isolation cage. I don't know if that's what is really called. I just made that up, but that's from RP Beeworks over in Texas. Check them out, rpbeeworks.com, I believe, or if you just Google it, I'm sure you can find it. But yeah, I'm gonna isolate the queen on a frame instead of caging her, just because that's a whole process. So I'm gonna isolate 16's queen to a frame, set that aside, and then make 2 very nice deep boxes for the queen, get her released, queen excluder, and then give them 1 very nice medium. And then that basically leaves me with just a few boxes and a few frames to figure out. So sounds complicated, it really isn't. It's just a matter of making 2 queenless hives into 1 good hive for 16 that already has a queen. So stay tuned, we'll see how this goes. So this is why I say all that. So the 3 or 4 frames that the bees are concentrated on, those were the best 4 that I had originally gave them. These are all new frames, as you can tell, that have heavily waxed foundation, but since I have frames with drawn comb and food stores between number 4 and number 2, why not supplement the possibly 6 frames here, get this box completely drawn out for them, or built out for them, and then do the same with a second deep. It took me way longer than I ever thought it would take to find a marked queen in a colony as small as this one. But there she is, just moving pretty darn slow and hiding under a lot of bees. Good Lord, man. Okay. Alright, she's caged. Good Lord. Alright. Now it's time to start combining some frames. Alright, slight change of plans. I'm going to end up moving 16 on top of number 4, and the reason I'm going to do that is because 4 actually has a healthy population of bees. They just don't have a queen and therefore don't have any brood or the next cycle of bees. So considering 4 has a decent population of bees that are still foraging, I don't want to move number 4 down to 16 and then all those field bees that are still out, because it's early in the afternoon, right? All those field bees come back and they don't have a home. In comparison, in contrast, I guess, 16 really doesn't have a lot of field bees, so whatever bees come back, it's not going to be a big loss. So I'm still going to cage the queen with the push cage into some comb. Get number what is this? I'm sorry. Get number 16 outfitted with, I need 6 good frames, which I think I'm going to pull those from number 2. So that takes care of number 2's deep for the most part. And then all I have to figure out is what to do with the 2 mediums on number 2, because the 1 medium on number 4 is just going to go back in place where it was. All right, step 1 complete. I just wrote a Q on the top bar. 16's queen is caged. And I'm just going to sandwich her between those 2 frames. And then now I'm going to go down to number 2, find 6 nice frames to add to 16, and then add 16 on top of number 4. And that should be it. What a great time to finish up as the rain starts again. I'm still going to finish today. So 16's queen is caged, as y'all saw. They have 10 nice frames. Number 4 is ready to go. So all I'm going to do is, once the rain stops, actually this evening, that's the plan, once all the field bees come back, I'm going to move number 16 on top of number 4. And then number 2, their deep box is empty, but the medium is 10 solid frames of drawn wax. No real food, but wax. So my idea is, once all the forage bees come back for the evening, since there's no frames in the bottom box, they'll all concentrate on the medium. So then again, at dusk, I'm going to take 16's deep, add it on top number 4, move number 4's medium out of the way, and then add number 2's medium to number 4. So number 4 will essentially become queen rate with number 16, and then it'll have a combination of their original medium with 1 medium from number 2. Hopefully the rain doesn't last all afternoon. It's been pretty quick lately. You never know. The canopy provides a nice cover out here because I'm getting wet, but not that wet. But yeah, that's the plan. I'm gonna come back right at dusk again to give all the foragers a chance to return, and then make a few combinations, and that'll be it. So not terrible for early-ish summer to combine 2 colonies, just because they went queenless over a month ago at this point. But like I said a few times, I just didn't want to run the risk of a laying worker situation. I dealt with that last year a few times, and it sucks. It's complicated. So I rather make a few combinations than deal with that, which is what I'm doing today. So yeah, hopefully the next clip is me at sunset doing all the things that I just explained. And honestly, if it doesn't happen today, it's not a big deal. There's always tomorrow or Saturday, or maybe even Sunday. But hopefully I can get it done at dusk today. If not, I'll just roll it to tomorrow. All right, here we go. So it's 7:30. Temperature's 87 degrees, humidity 68%, and the heat index is 98 degrees. That sounds awfully familiar, like this morning's temp. So I'm about to head out to the yard to combine 2, 4, and 16. So I'm gonna move 16 on top of 4. As y'all saw, 16's queen is caged in one of the those push cages. So I'm gonna move 16 on top of 4. I'm gonna insert some newspaper between those two, and then I'm gonna move number 2, which is essentially just the one medium. I'm gonna move number 2's medium on top of number 16, again, inserting newspaper between them. So when this is all said and done, I'm gonna label it as number 16 because that's number 16's queen, but it's gonna be in number 4's position. It should be a double deep with 2 mediums. And then over the course of the week, I'll let things settle, get into them towards the end of the month, and basically see what I can consolidate the configuration to. So plenty of daylight left. I'm sure there's still plenty of foragers out, but I don't want to wait too close into twilight hours. So let's go get this done. Hopefully the bees are semi-calm because we've had a few light rain showers throughout the day, and if you have not gotten into your hives shortly after some rain, try it. It's how you make memories. Sometimes the bees aren't friendly, so we'll see. Cross our fingers for the best. I'll have the smoker going, but yeah, 16 on top 4, 2 super on top 4's super, medium, and that should do it. Before we get started, let's walk around and take a look at the entrances of 2, 4, and 16. All right, 2 right here with the brick, not terrible. 4, that's what we're combining 2, and then 16 down here. All right. Not bad. Yeah, I was just curious to see what the front looked like. Not a whole lot of bees, but we'll see. Number 2 actually has a decent amount of foragers still coming in. So I'm just looking at number 4. Yeah, they're about the same. Well, you can only do so much. Whenever you consolidate hives, there's always going to be a few bees that get left behind, but they will be okay. They'll figure it out. They'll find a new home, and it's pretty much all you can hope for. I'm going to try and share as much as possible in case you haven't combined a hive before. So that's just a single sheet of newspaper. So at this point, I'm gonna put number 16 on top of this one. They surprisingly have some weight to them. Bees hanging out on the bottom board, so alright, so this is 16. Alright, a whole bunch of debris now, and let's see. I'm going to leave them configured as such. Alright, and I'm gonna go grab number 2 and just simply add number 2 on top. All right. Some bees still in the equipment. So between the bees stuck on the box still and the ones on the bottom board, that's pretty much it. So we'll get them closed up, give them a few days, And let's see, today's Thursday. I'll come out here tomorrow afternoon, maybe Saturday at the latest, release number 16's queen, and just hope for the best. I'm just walking down here. 16 was a pretty small colony. I wanted to see how many foragers may be coming back to where 16's entrances was, and really not many. Now number 2, on the other hand, they actually have a decent amount of bees still out there. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna clean off the bottom board first. I'm gonna put the deep back on top of the bottom board. I'm gonna grab the one medium that I removed from one of the hives today. It doesn't have a full 10 frames, and half of the frames I think don't really have much wax foundation, but it'll give the bees somewhere to kind of anchor in on over the night, and then come out here tomorrow, see how many bees are, well, see how many foraging bees from number 2 came back and moved into this medium, and then just shake them down into what I'm going to call number 16, which used to be number 4. So still a few moving parts. We're not completely in the clear, but I do feel better about this because, like I've said a few times, number 2 and number 4 were queenless for way too long, easily a month. Hate to say it, but easily a month. I tried quite a few things to get them queen right, and no success. So due to the amount of time and what I consider getting into the danger area, getting danger close to possibly having a laying worker situation, I decided this is the best way forward. So 3 hives become 1. Not a big deal. And if they do well, I mean, there's enough time in the season. If they do well and start building up, if 16's queen really starts building up now that she has a lot of very nice foundation to do so in, I mean, there's a good chance I could still make 1 or 2 splits from them before the fall. So stay tuned and see how that goes. But as far as the rest of the early part of the second half of July's video, this one, yeah, that's all I'm gonna do. Clean that off, like I said. Put the, well, I'm not gonna put the deep, there's a shallow over in the storage area. Put that on there just so the bees have a home to go to tonight. Like I said earlier, come out tomorrow, see how many bees came back, and shake them into what's going to be number 16's new home, which is number 4's old spot. Okay, hey, thanks for watching so far. If you like what you see, you can always subscribe to the channel. Doesn't cost you anything, and helps us out. We make I make literally pennies per video. It's kind of funny, but subscribing helps, and eventually pennies might turn into dollars. But anyway, that's it for now. All right, hey, welcome back everybody. Hopefully the background noise isn't too terrible. I got a few fans going because, big surprise, it's hot, right? So it's Friday, July 18th, right at 6 o'clock. The outside temperature is 95 degrees, 61% humidity, heat index of 112. 112 degrees, that's what it feels like at 6 p.m. Eastern North Carolina weather is wild. So anyway, I'm inside the shed. I have a temp gauge in here and it's reading 100 degrees and 48%. It doesn't feel bad. Again, I have a few fans blowing on me, but I'm out here to get some honey bottled, which means I have to hook up the tube from the tank to the bottler. I'll show you all that and give you some clips, but that's all in preparation for this weekend. Holly Ridge has started a farmer's market. It's just a monthly thing, and I was selected to be one of the vendors this Sunday. And then the following Saturday, I believe, I'm gonna be back at the Onslow County Farmer's Market. And there's a few festivals in the meantime. I just want to take the time now to get some honey bottled in preparation for the markets and some festivals, just so I don't have to do it later. So no time like the present. Let's get this thing set up, bottle some honey, and that'll be it for today. right, well, you've seen it once, you've seen it twice. It doesn't get any easier, really. I reduced the fill rate to 25% from 33, and I mean, both are fine. The honey's coming out pretty easily anyway, since the tank's set to 100 degrees. It flows nicely. But it took me a little bit to get set up. I forgot how to really prime the pump. I kept pushing the silver button, which is the manual fill button, or the fill button when it's set to manual mode. And each time I pressed it, it kept clearing the hose. So I actually got out the manual and did some reading, and I don't know, I think I stumbled across the tar button, T-A-R-E, as a way to really prime the pump. I could be wrong, but that's what worked. That's what I remember working. But yeah, it was throwing me through a loop, because the very first time I used it, I mean, it couldn't have been any easier. And then this being maybe the second time, it's been about a month since I filled any honey. So you live and you learn. But yeah, I'm just going to be out here for maybe an hour or two. Just fill as many bottles as I want, I guess. I'll probably do 50 1-pounders and maybe like 75 half-pounders for a total of, I think that would be about maybe 60 pounds, give or take. So that's what the evening's looking like. Friday nights in your 40s look a lot different than Friday nights in my 20s. And I say that jokingly, but I would not change it for anything. Alright, thanks for watching, everybody. Coles Farm, Jacksonville, North Carolina. If you like the videos, if you like the content, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button like a lot of folks say. And if you hit the bell, of course, you'll receive notifications of new videos, which honestly, I'm only making like 2 to 3 videos a month. That's what I decided to do last season. Sometimes it was hard to really try and keep up with producing content, so this year I really changed my approach on a few things, and one of those things was really just creating less headaches for myself with trying to produce content, which is why, if you look at our Instagram, I don't think I've made one reel this year, when last year I was producing at least 1 or 2 reels a week. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but between that, YouTube, making a few weekly posts to Instagram and Facebook, it just became a little much, and it started to take the fun out of it. So this year I just decided to do things a little differently. So again, hopefully you like the content. I'm just going to be out here filling bottles for the next hour or so. Alright, stay tuned for the next clip, which will be, or should be, me getting out into the yard to tend to number 16, which, as y'all saw from yesterday, I combined number 16 with number 4, and then used some of number 2's bees to combine with that as well. So I'm going to get out there tomorrow to release number 16's queen, which is now in number 4's hive stand position. So we'll see how that goes. I don't want to leave her in the cage for more than a day or two, really, with this heat. The bees can feed her, the bees can get to her through the holes in the little push cage that y'all saw, but I don't want to run the risk of killing a queen, especially this time of year, and then have to combine even more hives, more colonies to get them right. All right, extremely long-winded for what I'm doing, but thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. Stay tuned for the rest of July, and hopefully there's no more curveballs that the bees will throw my way.